himself getting passed by multiple cars, as I mentioned earlier on, so New off in a very precarious situation, but he often finds himself in these places. He doesn't qualify as well as he races.
Up front they are getting with Lee Aberdeen and Luca Varani not very far apart at all here, but I just want to see how Alistair Hayes deals with Marcello Kessler coming around the old hairpin.
I would say it's not the best decision they've ever made, just not having done that under the safety car, really.
Yeah, they're taking their pit stop strategies from Ferrari lately or something. What's going on?
In turn one, just too much gas on them, too much feet on the loud pedal, and unfortunately he's dropped all the way down the order, but Philip Hammer is out in front by an 8.91 seconds. Dan Michael is a wall there, sir. And definitely doesn't want to be hitting that earlier on as well.
Difficult, the understeer is in the dirty air through that final corner because it's such a long corner and you get dragged off into the grass very easily. He'll have the slipstream down towards the chicane. Peterson was briefly alongside, but that slipstream has saved him and kept him in third.
Yeah, Varani now lost a little bit of time to Aberdeen, about half a second. Peterson is Pike's pushed Morton forward up ahead. He's got out of line. Is now Pike going to have a go at Werrell? Don't push him off. He's in the championship fight. Jack Werrell chasing down Carl Jacklin. Further down, Rob Williams and Chris Barnes.
Sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still such up. He's touched on second and change. All of a sudden Miller's back in play.
Moving on to the back end of Phil Jocelyn. So there's been a lot of movers and shakers in this first 2 laps here for race.
Absolutely serious racing league. Everybody's allowed to have fun. Yeah, it's all about the entertainment. So I hope everybody is enjoying themselves out there in the chat. We know that Ron is been enjoying himself watching the Burger King machines off into the grass a little bit there as they're really bunching up now.
Standing out from the crowd is a challenge. You have the passion, courage, and ambition to do something extraordinary. You have an awesome story to tell and a wonderful vision to share with the world. At Eddie Videos, we take that vision and turn it into reality so you can be heard above the rest. You need something different, and we give you the ultimate advantage. We can help you transform your ideas, images, and clips into a professional video that brings your message to life and sets a new bar for excellence. Visuals, voiceovers, editing, animations, whatever you need, we've got it all. If you're a new business looking to make your mark or an experienced company searching for something new and amazing, we're here to help. Trust us to take your video to amazing levels of awesomeness.
Does he have it? Medeiros is going to get it. Medeiros is going to toss it. They haven't got it.
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still start trouble. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry! Good evening and welcome to the Radical Sim Racing America's Round 7 live from Road Atlanta. I am James Barfitt. I'm going to be joined in the booth by Daan Pepels this evening, who will be here with me guiding you through all the action from Road Atlanta. 4.6 kilometers in length, 12 turns here as well, and an epic fast flowing circuit. We can bring you up to date with the standings as of last week from Sebring. As you can see, Franco Sanchez is out on front in the pros on 287. We have Christian Vizcarra on 222. Rafael Benavides on 202 with Juan Puyo on 190. Eric Harmon on 183, up one place over Rafael Blanco on 176. Philip Wire up one on 170 from Stephen Place on 138. Mateus Moraes in ninth on 102. Ty Kim and Diego Zuccarelli bring up the rear. In the AMS, it's Joel Jacklin out in front on 214 with Richard Hearn on 208. Charles Krasik on 184, up one place over Andres Inop on 172. Mike Klausing on 136. Max Siegel on 120 with Cedric O'Horn on 112. John Benawalid on 106. Santiago Galbardoni on 90. Brendan Wright on 78, David Anderson 66, Tyler Edwards on 34 with Chad Verbose on 34 as well, Kevin Mulvihill 32, Nicholas Seville 24 and Edward Stanislawski on 14. In the pros at the moment for the teams, it's Virtual Racing Peru 1 on 489 with Virtual Racing Peru 2 on 412. What about Racing 183? Abana Racing 176 with Hydro Race Geodesic Racing on 170. Team Radline Can-Am on 138. On Wheels TV on 102 and Event Matrix on 42. In the AM team standings, Virtual Racing Peru 3 on 262, Lima Racing up 1 on 218 over Elite West Racing on 208. Then you got Verbose Digital Automation on 34 with Virtual Racing Peru Solo on 24. So that is the current standings as they are at this moment in time. But let's bring Mr. Daan Pepels into the booth. Dan, welcome in, bud. How are you?
Good evening, good night, really, everyone, and good night, James. It's been a long time. I'm happy to be back, and I'm happy to be back with the Radicals as well. We've got 13 competitors out on track with us at the moment. No, it's been great to be back here on the JV Broadcasting YouTube channel, and well, which track better to do that than Road Atlanta?
Yeah, Road Atlanta itself, fast flowing track here, down through turns 1, up through 2, 3, and then down through 4, and into the S's down in 5. Turn 5, really tricky corner. If they get it wrong on the curb on the outside, they are literally going to bury it into the wall, either on the left or right. I have seen it from both sides, so, you know, it should be an interesting one here. And once more, we've just come to the end of practice. We are going to go in to qualification very, very shortly here as well. Don't forget, a half-an-hour race, guys. A straight, flat sprint that these guys are going to have to go on. I think from our point of view, though, turn 5 probably going to cause some issues if people get it wrong down into 10A and 10B, which, of course, is the chicane section at the bottom of that long straight, which for some reason is aptly named 8 and 9, even though they're not really corners. But overall, I think it could be a good race.
Oh, for sure, and especially that first lap, keep an eye out for, like you said, turn 5. It's such a tricky complex of corners, that whole roller coaster section. And, well, turn 5, especially coming out of it, you said it, the curb on cold tires can be absolutely deadly, that corner. And I do have to say, like you said, we have seen it going wrong a couple of times. And if it does go wrong at the front of the field, well, we might have a pile-up coming down the hill.
Yeah, I think that could be the problem as well, is obviously the person at the front leading the pack away. If he ends up taking that curb and spinning the rear end up, which, as I say, can happen, I think we could be in for a little bit of trouble. But I think generally this should be all right for people to race on. You know, Road Atlanta's can be at times, depending on how you get it right or whether you get it wrong, can be a fast-flowing, easy track to manage. But it's how drivers will choose to manage the circuit. You know, if you don't go in it and attack the circuit, and you're a little bit more gingerly, turn 3 is going to kill you at the top of the hill, because we're coming up to that now. And as you can see, they've got a point here at the tree on the left-hand side. He's a little bit further over, and then in he goes, and then it's just a blind apex that they've got to hit before they go plummeting down the hill for 4 and down through the S's, of course. But, you know, look, these are top-quality drivers. They should... Don't take too much of that, mate. They should be able to get it right, as we can see Eric Harmon going around turn 5 there. But overall, I think from what these drivers have probably mainly manageably got to do is at least just try and finish the race. I think after half an hour sprint, it doesn't give them much time to try and get near each other. And, you know, they've got to go at it hammer and tongs. And I think this could be one of the interesting things here as well. Good morning, Phil. What are you doing up at this time in the morning? I know where me and Dan would be as well if we didn't have to talk. Why are you up at this time in the morning? Don't normally see you this bright and early, but thank you so much for joining us as we're picking up on Eric Harmon. Just finishing off his lap here, Dan. What do we reckon for overtakes? Down into the chicane, 10A, 10B?
Oh, it's a prime overtaking opportunity. We do have to be honest about that. And of course, coming off a long straight, going into a hard braking zone, it doesn't matter which corner you put there. As long as it's a hard braking zone, it will always be a prime overtaking opportunity. A spot where you can't really expect a lot of overtakes is this corner. That is turn 2 at the top of the hill, or turn 3 at the top of the hill. That is a blind apex, and if you send it there, you're very brave. Let's put it like that.
Well, I'm not quite sure brave would be my word. It would be you really don't kind of like surviving, because you can end up really putting it in danger. You know, you've got to be looking at the situation around you and whether or not you actually need to put it up the inside or outside. You know, we can see Joe Jacklin here with purples on sector 2. I think turn 3 you would be relatively crazy to go and do, to be honest. I think if they ever go down, it can only end up one way, can't it? Really, the outside and running down the hill.
The problem is that if you go side by side into 2, so the left-hander up the hill, it gets even more difficult to kind of judge your apex for turn 3. So what I find myself doing, especially in multi-class races where you have to overtake slower GT cars in an LMP, is you completely cut across that corner. You just kind of forget almost that it's there. That will upset the car, make you go straight on for turn 3, and well, it'll basically make you a moving chicane on the exit of the corner. Also a corner that I find a lot more trickier than it actually appears to be if you just look at it, is turn 7. It looks like it's just a plain sailing 90-degree right-hander, but it's a little bit over that. And it always catches drivers out because it tightens up so much.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things they've got to be aware of is that exit curb on 7. You know, with any curb at any track, it can spin you around. You can do the same thing for 25 minutes. You got to do that one thing on the last lap, and it will put you around in a circle, like just for no apparent reason. And you're sitting there thinking, well, I've just done that same thing for that amount of time, and yet now you're spinning me up. Yeah. So it's always hit and miss here how the physics and stuff work, and this even plummeting down the hill. You know, I was watching one the other day. He come plummeting down the hill, lost the back end went round. And we said to him, what happened? He went, I don't know. Like, the back end just went round all on its own. I don't know if it got light or if I hit a bump or what the situation was, but it ended up sticking me into the wall. So, you know, it is a tricky circuit. I think as fast flowing and as lovely as this circuit is, and I do love Road Atlanta, they've just got to be a bit more mindful, especially on cold tyres coming down into turn 1. You run wide, you are playing the lawnmower on the left-hand side of that grass, and that runs all the way up and literally can put you in the wall at the top of the hill because you can't get it off the grass quick enough.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, at the time I left, which is actually quite a while ago, like I said, I couldn't really remember the last time that I was here with the Americas. And really, what the problem is going to be is that, at least it was when I left, is that the tires are not really up to temp yet after one lap. It takes a couple of laps, actually, to properly get them up to temperature. They're race ready, I would say, after about 2 laps. But it takes a couple of laps to really get them into the window. And especially turn 1 is a corner where you need commitment. And on lap 2, that'll be a tricky position for the drivers as well. Easy to make that mistake. And like you said, if you do go off there, it's such a high-speed corner. The load is so much on those left-hand side tires that it's almost impossible to come back from it. If we look at qualifying at the moment, it's a 1:15.807 from Eric Harmon. That is at the moment the pole position in the Pro class. For Richard Hearn, it's a 1:16.34, which is the pole in the AMS.
Yeah, it definitely is. So let's see what happens here for the rest of the circuit. Just bear with me 2 seconds. I've just got to reload up the whole... There we go. Timing software wasn't quite working correctly as we're looking at Franco Sanchez at the moment here in quali to see how he gets on. Hello again, says Rio. Hello, welcome in. Thanks so much for joining us for the Americas SR10 here from Road Atlanta. Thank you so much. If you're awake at this time in the morning, if you're from anywhere in Europe or the UK, or if you're in America, Rio, where are you from? So we can get an idea as to where you are viewing our... What can I put it? Going to be an interesting SR10 race. I think that's the words we're going to be looking for here as well. But let's see what Diego Vizcarra does. I think done his laps already, to be blatantly honest. And we've got about 1:35 on the clock left of quali. So we've got just about a minute and a half to have a brief little chat. You're American Eastern. Oh, nice. Anywhere nice in America? Is there anywhere nice in America, Dan?
I've been, of course, 19, but if I had a country where I would just live in, it would be America, to be honest. I like the country. The only thing that I'm kind of scared about if I would live there is the fact that you can buy a gun in almost every state and are allowed to carry one. I think there are very few states in America where you're actually not allowed. But if I would say so, I would go to Texas. Just sounds interesting, to be honest, to live there.
Yeah, I think that I've got a brother-in-law who lives in Atlanta. I'm near Philly, so it's okay, I suppose. Our suburbs are nicer than our cities. I did see that about Philly the other day, actually. Is there somewhere where you've got a refuge ban and they're not picking up rubbish? And it literally, the video I watched was all over the street, like deep all over the street. It was absolutely horrendous. I can't remember if that was Philly or San Francisco. It might have been San Francisco because they've also legalized, is it for like crack cocaine or something? And there's like loads of homeless people on the side of the streets just doing it.
Lee. Holy, that's why I just
yeah, literally, they were just literally sat on the side of the streets and they're all just like spacked out. Anyway, before we get into too much of a political conversation about something that I'm really not sure about, Eric Harmon is your pole man, Franco Sanchez in second, Richard Hearn third, Christian Vizcarra fourth, Rafael Benavides in fifth, Philip Wyatt sixth, John Bonawal in seventh, Juan Puyo eighth, Mike Klaus in ninth, Joe Jacklin 10th, Diego Vizcarra 11th, Chad Verbose is down in 12th with Cedric Ahun in 13th there as well. But Eric Harmon setting the pace in quali. And let's see what comes on. Yeah, that sounds like San Francisco. Yeah, I thought it was. It's a very bizarre scenario. I don't know how people are dealing with it. But there we go. So we've got a good mix of Pro-Ams, 6 and 7. So 13 cars on track. Let's see how many will survive. This is going to be the interesting thing. And whether or not they're all going to survive here, Dan, or are we only going to get a few? Well, while we wait for Vizcarra and Sanchez from the Racing Peru team, hopefully they don't take each other out this week like they did in Sebring when they had a coming together as well. And so, yeah, it was a very interesting one, Sebring, I'm not going to lie. But let's see how these get on here, and hopefully there'll be some nice little tidy close battles as Sanchez has got about 30 seconds to go before he needs to be on the grid. So let's see if he's, hopefully he should be able to make it unless he's got any major dramas or issues, but you never know. As we know with live internet-based broadcasting, anything can happen. I do have currently have
as soon as you press that live button, it just all goes to bits usually.
Yep, and I have got literally lightning above my head at this moment in time as well. So let's see, hopefully it will stay on. 4 lights, 5 lights, and we are up and running here, and Franco Sanchez looks like he almost got a bit of a better run out than over Eric Harmon, and he did as they sweep through turn 1 up the hill into turn 3. Sanchez then goes and messes up the first corner, and Richard Hearn is going to make a move as well, dropping down into 3 at the moment, as it is Eric Harmon, Richard Hearn, Franco Sanchez and Benavides. The more importantly of all of that, I was going to say everybody got away cleanly, and then Richard Hearn went and did this, which is one of the things we said about, is this going to be cold tyres? It is, and then straight into the wall at 4 there, and unfortunately for Hearn, probably game over.
This is exactly what we were talking about at the top of the show. Franco Sanchez has been let off with 1 then. Was not on the rubber, was not where the ideal line was. I think he could have cut over a bit sooner, really. I think he was giving Eric Harmon a bit too much respect on the inside. Now his teammate is challenging him for that position. Rafael Benavides in the 77 on the inside for the right-hander. But it's going to be chicane inside for Franco Sanchez. He's going to leave it to it. And John Benoit gets past as well.
John Benoit makes that move over Franco Sanchez with Vizcarra tucked up right behind Sanchez, with Philip Wyatt also on a little bit of a mission here in the background. Juan Puyo, Vizcarra, Joe Jacklin and Klausing having a battle further back. There are 2 cars there, I promise you. As you looked at that really quickly, it only looked like there was 1. There's somebody off on the grass as well. John Benoit makes that mistake in turn 1 and ends up becoming a lawnmower all the way up the hill. Cedric Ahern has also had an incident. Chad Verbose has been off the side of the circuit once more here, but that for Benoit, I can guarantee if we have a look back, he runs wide in turn 1 and goes scooting up the side of the hill. Are we ready for John Benoit to do exactly that? Exactly that, and he does that, runs wide straight up the hill, becomes that lawnmower, and well, Dan, that's one of the things they've all got to be a little bit more careful about.
It's not exactly speed like lightning, you know. Lightning McQueen, there we go. Had to get that one in there, the livery of course for Benoit. But yeah, that's what we said, and I told you lap 2 is just as difficult as lap 1, because you have to that corner. It's so difficult to judge on colder tyres. Christian Viscara has got Pulse in the background.
Yeah, Viscara passed Philip Wyatt there as well with João Puyo and Viscara, Diego Viscara. So I'm probably guessing they're part of the same family, unless I'm completely off the base, and then somebody will tell me that I've gone wrong here as well. But Philip Wyatt looking like he was lining up Viscara there for another go. Mike Clausen and Joel Jacklin just swap positions. Your championship leader, of course, is Jacklin at the moment. So he's got a lot of work to do here, and let's see how he gets on within this race. They've got about 25 minutes remaining, and we have got this battle of Sanchez Viscara, Wyatt Puyo and Diego Viscara battling it out for them last, basically it's the last podium position really, Dan, because Franco Sanchez is sitting in third at the moment.
The only problem, James, that I've got with the fact that Viscaras are families, the fact that the flags are kind of the same. One has a maple leaf in the middle, one is from Canada,
Oh,
now,
so
I'm not
maybe not
saying
then.
That is, well, I'm not saying that it's impossible, but it makes it look like it's more of a just coincidence than, well, more than anything. And one of the Viscaras, that's Christian Viscara, now up into the podium. Franco Sanchez down into P4, pressurized now, but wide behind him.
Wyatt Puyo coming up over the hill, dropping down in through turn 12 on that fast right-hander. They've got to be able to control their speed coming down into turn 1 though, because if they don't, as we've seen with Benawalid, it will be the grass on the left-hand side. They do manage to hold on to it as they start going racing up the hill. Clausing's leading the AMs at the moment over Jacklin here. So Jacklin, your leader of the AMs, has got to try and make a move as well if he best he can, because otherwise he's going to have, well, Mike Clausen closing the gap up front. Don't get me wrong, he has got quite a nice little comfortable cushion at the moment here over Richard Hearn. He's got about 6 points, but at the moment we've just seen Richard Hearn go and put it into the wall. So from basically Jacklin's point of view, he's got to try and keep it on the circuit. I think Dan could be one of his main aims here as well, to try and get points over the top of him.
Well, for Franco Sanchez, in these last 2 rounds of the season, it is so incredibly important to just keep the car going, really. He has a free get-out-of-jail card, basically, because he's more than 50 points ahead of Viscara, Christian Viscara, who at the moment is in P3 right ahead of him. So if he just finishes the last 2 races, which includes this one, he will be a regular season champion, and he will go into those finals with the confidence of having finished first in the regular season. So for him, it's just basically keep the car on track, don't do anything stupid, and you don't need to win every round now. You've put yourself in a position where you can kind of relax and just, you know, see what happens from there.
Yeah, I think a lot of being the champion, right, isn't going out. Don't get me wrong, there are, oh, bye-bye Christian.
Well, there we go.
And
that, give him an even bigger cushion.
Yeah, and I can gently, safely say, as you watched him come off the curb at turn 5, oh, that's a bit of a shocking camera angle, but let's try again, and we'll see if we can get a better one as he comes over off the curb. Aye. And that's it, straight in. We knew that was coming, we knew somebody was going to do it, we just didn't know where. Clausing and Benawalid and Joel Jacklin are having now a nice little tidy battle here for this AM lead. Clausing has just lost the place to Benawalid. Benawalid's now going to try and go after Joel Jacklin, who's gone up under the bridge and dropping down the other side through down into 12. And once more we'll see how these guys can get on, and whether or not Clausen, well, really, Benawalid needs to kind of make up for his mistake that he did earlier on in turn 1 there, Dan, and by cutting off the grass.
Well, you will have to. Joel Jacklin now leading in the AM class. John Benawalid was quick, actually. I expected him to be a little bit further up the field, but well, still, all in all, for him, a good position in the AM class. He's P2 at the moment. Hearn, who started on that AM pole position all the way down on P4 in that class, that tells you how important qualifying really is. And you know what they always say, the points are given in the race, and at the moment, well, Joel Jacklin will be the driver in the AM class, picking up the most amount of points. Benawalid, though, not happy with that and tried to change it.
Yeah, he should be able to get him basically going down here as well. Down this straight, he's going to have a massive overspeed. He's got to run round down the hill now. He's got to get his braking point right. Otherwise, this is all for nothing. Onto the brakes they go now. Bring that down that level, and look like Benawalid was already through there as well. Good evening, CJ. Welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us. Franco Sanchez has got this man, Joan Puyol, right behind him. And Puyol now looking at making a move up the inside. Are they both going to get through there side by side successfully? Puyol makes it through. Job done before he's even hit the apex there. Sanchez again trying to come up the inside of 3. Probably not the best idea, and I wouldn't be looking at doing that. But one thing I would be looking at doing if I was Philip Wyatt here, Dan, is just basically sitting behind Sanchez now and getting him as I come out of turn 6 and 7. Just making sure I'm in that 2/10 draft range, of course.
I don't know if it's just Sanchez taking it easy here at this race, but it seems like he's down on a bit of pace here at this track. He's been overtaken on merit, on pace by a couple of drivers now. Wyatt is one of them who's right behind him. That slipstream though from the 69 of Puyol ahead of him is helping him keeping ahead. But yeah, he seems to miss a bit of pace. Where he is quick though is going down to turn 6 and 7. That double right-hander, well, very quick into those corners, but that's about it.
Oh, Benawalid's going to have a go at Jacklin here. Surely he's going to sneak out the inside. Jacklin's got to give him room. Benawalid's going to be looking at coming up over that hill into Jacklin. There we go. He's taking that inside line. Very brave there from Benawalid. And he does make it through. Clausen's going to look at trying to come through on the inside of Jacklin on that run into turn 1 now. Clausen on the left, Jacklin on the right. And Clausen manages to sneak out the inside. So poor old Joel Jacklin there. 2 corners, 2 places, gone. So Jacklin needs to start trying to make his way back through if he can. But to be honest, Dan, with his championship title rival Richard Hurd down in 4th at the moment, who is down 7 places, mind you, after mixing up and sticking it in 3rd place there, went off obviously down the S's and unfortunately terminated his ride. You know, he can afford to probably sit in 3rd if he doesn't feel he's got the pace to keep up with the guys in front.
Yeah, 3.6 seconds is the gap back to Hurd behind him. And that was 5 seconds just a moment ago, so Hurd is gaining. There you can see him in the background, the yellow and blue car. But at the moment, I think if he's just able to stick into that slipstream, it's going to be difficult, even if Hurd catches up for him to overtake. The same is happening further up the field for Sanchez and Wyatt. Basically, Sanchez has a slipstream of Puyol ahead of him, and it's just impossible really for Wyatt or Vizcarra really to do anything because they basically don't have any advantage.
Yeah, it's by what we mean by that, guys, is obviously if you haven't watched motor racing or you're not sure about motor racing, when the drivers get within a certain range, they obviously get what's called the draft, where there's 2 cars cutting through the air. The speed's a lot quicker for the guy behind. He then gains a massive overspeed. The problem is when you're in a train like this, everybody's getting the same amount of draft, so therefore you're surviving from the person behind you. Now, the problem with Sanchez at the moment is the fact that he's now lost 8 tenths to Puyol, which then could put him into the attack from Philip Wyatt and also Vizcarra here. And this is one of the things that we was talking about. The draft is not really catching the draft, where Wyatt is catching it a lot more at the moment. So Wyatt's going to have a massive overspeed because he is and should start closing that gap down to about 3.5 tenths. But it's actually Vizcarra who seems to be gaining it more here. Wyatt's not really making an inroad, which I thought he would have done here.
Exactly the same really, James, but also I thought that Sanchez would be a bit quicker through 6 and 7 because that's where he's been making up that time to Puyol ahead of him. Losing a bit down the roller coaster section from turn 1 all the way to turn 5, and coming out of 5, that little bit of a straight would catch up a bit due to slipstream, and then the double right-hander 6 and 7. That's where he would gain the time, especially on the exit of 7. He is so lightning quick all the time there, and you could really see that on the straights. It's the exit that he focuses on, kind of, you know, slows it down a bit more at entry, so he can have a good exit. And that's really all that is important there, because there's such a long straight behind it. But look in the background now, Vizcarra trying to make his way past Wyatt. He says, let me have a go, and Sanchez ahead of you, of course, not teammates, and he's of course not going to let him pass.
Wyatt is not just going to roll over and say sorry, thank you very much, but he also is not
He's going
to have to now. He can't do a lot about it. Here comes Diego Vizcarra. We've lost Christian Vizcarra, of course. Saw him come off the curb at 5 and then go and unfortunately terminate it in the wall. This time it was on the right-hand side. What about Joel Jacklin and Clausen? They were literally nearly nose to tail there as well. So battles through the back end of the pros and battles through the AMs here. So we're going to have Diego Vizcarra has now got Philip Wyatt, who's going to be literally tucked up right up his nose. Up his rear end here to try and get that position back, but Wyatt just doesn't seem to have the speed on the straight, which I'm a bit confused about with the draft, because generally, you know, the draft should give him a massive boost, and for Philip Wyatt there just kind of wasn't anything when he was in contact with Franco Sanchez.
The difference was also that he was 6 tenths back on Sanchez, and Vizcarra was about 1.5 tenths back on Wyatt. Now if you don't know how slipstream or the draft works, the closer you are, the more of that effect you will feel, and especially once you get into those last 2 tenths, that's when it really starts taking the air off your nose, and that's when you really start gaining that speed in a straight line. Franco Sanchez though, that car, it's more of Franco Sanchez being quick in a straight line. You can see how quick he is compared to Puyo as well. I have a feeling he's running a lot less wing than the guys around him.
Yeah, but the problem, obviously, rear wing is obviously going to help him going through, you know, down the straights and things like that, Dan. But on the corners, he's going to be a little bit more wobbly than some of the others, and that could be why he obviously lost the positions at the beginning as well, because he's down 2 from where he started. Cold tyres, skinny wing, could be what lent itself to that issue.
Look at how he's handling that car. You can see how nervous it is on entry, mid-corner. See this? There's a bit of oversteer. Manages to negate that nicely. But if I look at how Franco Sanchez is driving this car, then it's on the edge all the time. And I've got so much respect for people who are able to do this. Because if I jump into a car, I did it during the 24 Hours of Spa, really for the first time. We drove an oversteery setup, which usually is quick. You never really want to understeer because you're losing those final couple of tenths. But it is so difficult to do, and you kind of got to predict what the car is going to do, but also you have the freedom of telling the car what to do.
I think that could be a big difference for some people, and whether or not they're able to know if they turn that steering wheel, that front end's going to go deep into the corner for them. One man that is going deep now is currently Diego Vizcarra onto the back of Sanchez. We can see Joan Puyo run a little bit wider in turn 1 than the others. The other guys were a little bit tighter. Through 3 they go, dropping down into 4. Wyatt's coming slowly back into it. The battle in the AMs has kind of settled down at the moment, and unfortunately this is why it settled down, because Clausing has had a bit of a moment. Did he have it? It was not on his own.
Ouch.
Yeah, Jacklin missed his braking point. No, that sums that one up. Down into turn 10. Yeah, he was miles away. Unfortunately for Jacklin, he did not get that right. From Diego Vizcarra's point of view, over Franco Sanchez, though, he is getting it right. Is he going to run up now? He's got the draft a lot earlier than most would actually want it. You kind of want it just as you start coming about now, because it gives you that overspeed down into the corner. Vizcarra on the left on your screen. Franco Sanchez there as well, and Vizcarra just cannot hold it. He kind of caught the draft a little bit early there. He come out right at probably right near the beginning of the straight there, Dan, and he kind of wanted to pick it up a little bit further up.
Yeah, or start from a little bit further back, but he doesn't want to start from a little bit further back now to the inside for Vizcarra. Sanchez back into P5, and that was kind of the inevitable. Is Wyatt going to get past as well? And he does. He's finally passed Sanchez.
he's
Now
not.
a bit deep down at the turn one though, and that allows Sanchez past again. But look in the background, Benwalit is caught up to them as well, the leader in the AM class.
Yeah, Benawale, massive amounts of speed there as well. Buried free while these two were having their own little bit of a dramatic moment. And Wyatt is now trying to go up the inside of Sanchez again into 6 and 7. Makes it into 6. Is Benawale going to be able to catch that draft and then overtake Sanchez as well if Sanchez cannot survive on the back of Wyatt at the moment? And from Franco Sanchez's point of view here, Dan, 6th overall, down 4. Seems a little bit bizarre if he's running that skinny wing. He's going to have a massive overspeed, but as I say, maybe it's the corners he's struggling in.
Yeah, I mean, to the inside now for Wyatt, gets pushed out to the outside. That almost allowed Benwale to have a little bit of a look. But look at Vizcarra, what that has done. It's given him a 1.7 second gap over Sanchez. This is incredibly, this is incredible for him. This late on into the race, about 10 minutes left, a little bit more, but that has allowed him to create a little bit of a gap, and that's always nice, especially once you've got that driver outside 1.5. You know that if I just keep doing what I'm doing now, he's got to be quicker on pace, because he's not going to have the advantage of any slipstream really down the straight or anyway. So yeah, I think for Vizcarra, this has played out really, really nicely.
Yeah, it definitely has, and we're just going to have to see how Vizcarra now makes the best of that airflow and free track that he's got, because he's got a 2.2 second gap to Vizcarra, to Joan Puyo, so he's got to try and catch up with Puyo there as well. One man that is closing is Richard Hearn. If you watch in the background, there's Richie Hearn, and it's coming onto the back again of Joel Jacklin. Last time out 1:16.87, 1:17.04, so he pulled out 2 temps on Jacklin in front of him. As we say that, Eric Harmon goes and bangs in the fastest lap on a 1:16.021. But Wyatt and Benawale are going to be literally, if Benawale can stay there down that long straight, he's going to be having a go. And I think if anyone is within 3 temps, maybe, they should be able to catch that draft down. I think you actually need to be around about 2.5 to be able to get it at a full pelt. But I don't know what's going on with Sanchez. He just seems not kind of comfortable in the car, or maybe it's the track that he can't get to grips with, but it's definitely something's going on at the moment.
Yeah, it's also difficult to defend from a driver like Vizcarra, because he's got that skinny wing on. He's so quick in a straight line, and with how he's handling that car and the precision that he has in the corners, he isn't really losing that much. You're going to say, well, less downforce, you're going to lose a bit in the corners. That's not the case for him, and that is not the case for Wyatt either. Pulls to the inside. This is what James said earlier. Kind of got that slipstream too early. Benwale, more of an advantage with that slipstream. We're 3 wide going down the hill, going into 10A and 10B. It's going to be Wyatt on the outside. Benwale has got past, but Sanchez is going to drop down another position, and he might even drop down to P7 come the end of this race.
Yeah, there, Benawale got massive double amounts of the draft and literally made the most of it. Sent it 3 wide down the straight, and now Wyatt's going to have a go up the inside of turn 1. Thought about it, didn't quite make that move at the moment. Is he going to be able to get it on that run up in the hill into 3? He's too far back at the moment, but he's going to tuck in once more. And again, for Sanchez, it's just going to be it just seems to be a rinse and repeat. Everybody that gets past him just goes and pulls away from him, and Benawale's done the same. I think Wyatt at this moment, Dan's going to be absolutely kicking himself that he's been behind Sanchez for this long, because he could have been halfway up the road by now.
I think the problem for Wyatt is the fact that he hasn't really committed to an overtake yet, and the one time that he could, he was actually a bit too close, and his exit was too good out of the corner. Now onto the straight again. Sanchez, you're going to see a normal slipstream effect here between those two, because Sanchez has a bit of slipstream. Wyatt has more slipstream than him, and that's going to be about 1.5 to 2 tenths maximum, and that's going to, well, basically strengthen the fact that Vizcarra is running a, well, basically zero wing, we can almost call it. And some drivers can do that. Some drivers can, some drivers can't, and if you can, Well, that basically makes for a really fast drive and a really fast setup to the inside, though, for Joel Jacklin. This is important for the championship. Richard Hearn at the moment in P2. He is 6 points behind Joel Jacklin. Any 2 points that he can pick up over him are 2 points. The both will collide. Joel Jacklin off the track and Richard Hearn off the track. That was eventually going to happen. We talked about it at the top of the show. Turn 3, such a tricky corner to run through side by side, and both happened. The outside tricky because it's off camber, the inside tricky because you just don't have any room. The corner is too tight.
No, that was just... Yeah, I think we could probably look back at that and sit there and think that was just a little bit sloppy here as well from Jacklin for going in. You were never going to do it. You might as well have just waited and survived it there. And Richard Hearn got through, probably had a little bit of a panic on, stamped on the pedal. And unfortunately for him, his back end decided that he wanted to join the front. Harmon goes and sets the fastest lap again on a 1:15.84. Field's getting a little bit more spread at the moment. Wyatt is still not getting hold of Sanchez. Balawalan is still obviously trying to open up the gap over Sanchez at the moment. He's got touching on about 6.5 tenths, maybe just 7 tenths at certain points on the track as well. But from that point of view, we said you've either got to be brave or crazy to go too wide in turn 3. And we had Jacklin and Hearn do it together when they both practically, Dan, could have probably sat and waited and survived until they got back on the straight. And now both men, unfortunately, Jacklin's still in second place in the AM, so he's come out of it okay. Hearn's come out of it in third, when really they could have been battling for the last 6 minutes because it was just a crazy move that didn't need to happen.
It didn't need to happen, but if you look at the situation, the fact that there's 6 points between them in the championship between Jacklin and Hearn, then I mean, eventually something was going to happen between those two. You just didn't know if it was good or if it was indeed bad, but somehow with that, it is Jacklin who managed to come out of that unscathed, 3.5 seconds down to Hearn. And at the moment, he will go to a 8-point lead in the championship. But, I mean, the stakes were high. No one wanted to stick behind. No one wanted to give up that position. And in the end, they both had to somehow yield. But they haven't really lost anything on the road. Verbose is still behind them. Hearn is still behind Jacklin. So I would say they got away with one.
Yeah, 5 minutes remaining. Sanchez has got that gap down to about half a second. Klausing, of course, trying to come back through the field after his incident there. Well, say incident, can we just say he was assisted down in 10A by Joel Jacklin to go and visit the gravel trap on the exit of 10A and 10B. So Klaus is trying to come back through over Cedric. Sanchez and Benawalid are still nose to tail now. Benawalid sent him on the outside, which is going to give him the inside. Now, I saw this work the other day. If Benawalid's committed here, he should have the... No, he's not.
That was a beautiful setup. But Ben Walid, was not going to make that stick round the outside. The problem with that is, though, James, is that you're putting yourself on the penalty spot, really. If he pushes you off, wide behind you in P7 is going to get past eventually. Sanchez, however, seemingly finding a bit of speed in these later stages of the race.
Yeah, well, we did one Thursday here. And they managed it too wide for this game. You know, the outside guy managed it, gave it space, but they've got to be committed. And unfortunately, well, from Benawalid's point of view, he'd already backed out before we'd even started talking about it. So, you know, I mean, just as I was about to set it up as it was going to be a big moment in the race, Benawalid lifted off and well, that was kind of my segment over and done with, really. But there we go. It is what it is. Klausing's now trying to get onto the back here of Cedric up through turn 3. They're going to come up over the hill, take a little bit of curb, and then from Klausing, we're going to see him go rushing down through turn 4 here. Slight little lift to get the car set up, and then away you go. Lift it off, get it down. Set off that curb, and then away he goes again. Now I reckon Klausing should get this down the straight here So that should be the situation. Sanchez and Benawalid and Wyatt are not going to change positions. They're too far back from each other. However, Clausen's not got a bad exit at turn 7 here, and he's going to run under the bridge. And now this is it. Look at the difference, what we're talking about. He's picking up. He's just closing. And he should get this job done before they've even got down. Depends if Cedric wants to send it in deep into the first part. Of course, he's going to take the inside line. Clausen goes through, tucks his nose off, says, thank you very much. You're done and you're behind me. So Clausen's on his way. Joel Jacklin and Richard Earl are back together again, Dan.
And they're back together at the same point where it went wrong earlier on in the race about 2 laps ago. I have a feeling that Hearn has some pace over Jacklin at the moment. Maybe Jacklin has got some damage from whatever happened earlier on, but that gap was 5 seconds 2 laps ago, and the gap is now down to 0.2 of a second. So I think it's a case of waiting for the right moment, not doing it too early.
All that. Yeah,
he's saying some magic, isn't he?
Yeah, he come back again. He disappeared and went again. And I've got a funny feeling Jacklin's just not got the pace at the moment. If you have a look, he's doing just touching 150. Richard Hearn's already above it. Jacklin's now going to be stuck. It seems like he's stuck at about 153, 155. Didn't go much faster. Sanchez is still here with Benawalid now catching up as well. With the leader going round turn 6 nearly, who will be starting the last lap this time around. So we will be barneying up with the white flag here, and now it's all about Sanchez not getting them S's. He just can't seem to get this hooked up at the moment, while everybody else is a lot more flowy. I mean, from Sanchez's point of view, he looks very kind of rigid and fidgety, and that's what he just doesn't seem to bury that S's section of the track at the moment.
I think fidgety is perfectly explains on how it looks and how it's handling for Sanchez at the moment. Might be the way he's got that car set up, but it's giving him some trouble. And look, he's a sitting duck really in a straight line for Benawalid to the outside for the chicane. Now he's got to try and make this work. Is he going to be able to do it now? He's still on the inside and he has made it work round the outside of 10A going into 10B. And that was exactly what James was talking about earlier, but that is also what I was going to say. If you want to make that work, there's Barney with the white flag, you've got to have a certain amount of overlap on the outside, and overlap is still there for Benawalid on the inside. Now Sanchez trying to find a way to re-overtake Benawalid, but it looks like he's going to have to wait for the straight.
See, now me being me here, and I'm only thinking because I know I would probably look at doing this, knowing that coming down that long straight I'm going to get done like an absolute kipper if Sanchez can stay with me. Through the S's, I might have lifted a little bit to bring him back into contact with Wyatt, or want Wyatt to have a go at him down the straight, because for Benawalid, he's opened up nearly 7/10, so that's fair play to him. He's out of that range now, so he hasn't got to worry too much about it. One man who definitely hasn't had to worry here in the pros is Eric Harmon. He's going to come over the line and do an absolutely stellar job with Benavides in second, but it is Eric Harmon takes the victory here with Joan Puyo, who's going to come over in third. In the AMS, it looks like Benawalid is going to take this one over Richard Hearn and Joel Jacklin as he comes around that final corner. Benawalid does get the job done over them as these guys cross the line close together, and Richard Hearn and Joel Jacklin there. Oh, they didn't do it again, did they? Or is this the one we've already seen at the top of the hill? No, this is the one we watched at the top of the hill, so that was quite lucky, because I thought they did it again then. But Benawalid there, absolutely stellar job taking the victory in the AMS. Hearn coming through in second with Jacklin in third. And then you've got the likes of Chad Verbose, Mike Clausen and Cedric O'Hearn, who have just got to finish off here. Great job from all of them there. Entertaining, partly because that middle kind of field made it entertaining. You know, Harmon just kind of ran away with it. And I think he was just basically dominated what was going on here as well, and he did an absolutely stellar job. But here are the results of this race. Eric Harmon is your winner with Rafael Benavides in second, Juan Puyol third, Diego Vizcarra fourth, John Benawalid fifth, Franco Sanchez sixth, Philip Wyatt in seventh there. Richard Hearn and Joel Jacklin round out the podium, of course, with John Benawalid taking the AM victory. Chad Verbose in 10th, Mike Clausen unlucky. I'm sure Jacklin... Yeah, I think maybe there might be an appeal there. I've got to be honest. He was late, but whether or not it was deliberate, we don't know. You can't deliberately go late. Cedric O'Hearn in 12th, and then Vizcarra, Christian Vizcarra, of course, who we lost 18 laps ago, spun it off turn 5, hit the wall, and then spun into the wall again. So from that perspective, yeah, you're going to terminate yourself there, really, aren't you? But again, Dan, another interesting race from Road Atlanta.
Yeah, what that has done in the AM Championship, it has brought the championship to 4 points, basically. If Hearn would have finished ahead of Wyatt, that would have made it so that it doesn't matter what happens. The person who finishes ahead of the other would have won the championship in the next round. But Hearn has got his job cut out for him going into that last round, but it has closed it right up.
Yeah, it definitely has. It's shut everybody and going to bring them all close together in the pro standings. So that might be a different kettle of fish with Franco Sanchez 287. Christian Vizcarra was obviously not far behind him, with Vizcarra not finishing there, Dan. It's probably put Vizcarra under attack from Benavides, who should take that second place. But I think, to be honest, Franco Sanchez, is pretty well comfortable. Of course, we've got one round left here as well, and that is from Bathurst of all circuits, Dan. Do we love Bathurst, or do we not?
I do. I love the track, really. Not for a last round of the championship, maybe, because it sometimes just completely takes people out of the occasion. But, I mean, that's a good thing. The pressure is on. It's a track where it's never easy to race with pressure, but I think one man who won't have any pressure is indeed Franco Sanchez, with Christian Vizcarra finishing all the way down the order. And Benavides not picking up the points that he would need over Sanchez. Nothing that Benavides could do there. Harmon was too quick. But more to Franco Sanchez, his success. Franco Sanchez is the regular season champion because the gap is bigger than 50 points. And, well, there's only 50 points up for grabs in the last round.
Yeah, so there we go. Franco Sanchez has pretty much, I believe, probably as well, wrapped up the pro title. The AMs will go down to the final race, but that is it. Do you think we should tell the guy doing donuts he has to use up tyres again next week? Well, if only we could. There as well, Phil. Thanks, guys, as well for a great race and an awesome commentary. Well, thank you so much for joining us here tonight, guys, as well. It's been great having you all with us once more up here in the JPB booth. But I think that's going to bring it to the end of the evening. So from myself and Dan Pepels, as always, take care. Have a great week. And you never know, we might see you on a track sometime. Good night.